In the current day and age, the theory of evolution is not merely a theory any longer.
Well, that's a strange way to start. Merely a theory. You know that a theory in science is like the highest status an idea can be. If something is a theory within science, that means it is the most robust, heavily tested, demonstrable idea that we have to explain whatever phenomenon we are using it to explain. It's like saying that the guy who scrapes the gunk out of your skull and replaces it with jam is merely a fucking brain surgeon.
But quite frankly, a religion accepted by the majority of people worldwide.
For starts, I don't know how the hell it's a religion. It has no doctrines. It changes all the time. It can be used to make predictions. It reflects reality while having absolutely none of the trappings one would typically associate with a religion. No dogma, no sacred relics, no higher power, and anything that you might stupidly try to label as such is again subject to change. Like how Darwin's ideas are largely outdated, even though morons like you accuse people who understand evolution as treating him as some kind of messiah whose ideas must never ever be questioned. Also, while most, as in more than don't, is technically true, it's extremely depressing how far from overwhelming that is within the general public. Although weirdly, for people who understand, fucking science, it's dang near 100%. I wonder why. Probably because of how religious they all are. Wait a minute.
It is taken as fact without any further questioning. So in today's brief video, I want to present a top 10 that will debunk evolution.
To begin, no it fucking isn't. It's a science. That is not how science works. It is constantly being tested. Just because you and your dumbass mates think it isn't, doesn't change that. And of course, I seriously doubt that you are going to debunk evolution with 1, 10, 100, or even 1 billion goddamn points. Because it is simply an observable fact about reality. And I don't think that because I've never questioned it. I know that because I did, and you don't because you've never even tried. Not really.
Number 1. No transitional fossils.
Aside from, literally fucking all of them, every fossil is a transition. Every being alive is a transition. That's how this works. Now, what he's likely to say is, no weird thing that I decide a transitional fossil absolutely needs to be without a justification for why that is. And all the obvious transitions that are there will be ignored because they make me sound like a gibbering moron.
Darwin himself admitted the fossil record should be full of transitional forms if evolution were true. Yet the only fossils found to this very day are fully formed species appearing suddenly.
Fucking called it on the Darwin shit. Assuming that he said and meant that, so fucking what? There are tons of transitions, but also fossils are extremely rare to form. Most animals never even have the chance to leave behind a fossil, so expecting to see the lot is extremely unrealistic. But the fact that we still see them anyway, and we can see the transitions in play, is a testament to how evolution is very much a thing.
For example, where are the half-reptile, half-bird fossils? The missing links are still missing.
Holy f***, you're an actual goddamn moron. What are you talking about half-bird, half-reptile? And then showing a goddamn crocodile equivalent, but, with a snake instead of a crocodile body. You can tell this guy has done literally no research into this. Not once has he bothered to ask someone, hey, do we expect evolution to produce a half-bird, half-snake hybrid monster? Because he would have quickly been cured of such ridiculous notions. No, evolution does not expect half creatures. It expects full creatures that move from one form to something very similar, but still distinctly different, repeatedly over a long time, to the point that it will eventually be completely different. Because that's what happens, you complete spoon.
Number 2. Irreducible complexity. Some biological systems, like the bacterial flagellum or the eye, need every single part to function.
No, they fucking don't. What are you talking about? You do know that functionality can be reduced to extreme degrees while something still remains functional. Especially when it comes to something like sight. If you took out the rods from the old rods and cones thing that you should have learned at school but probably didn't, you would largely still be able to see. Just your night vision would be severely impaired. And in fact, People have. It's called congenital stationary night blindness, or CSNB, and essentially the rods in their eyes are turned off at birth or damaged or something, but they are still very much able to see during the day, just not very well or even at all in low light situations. And shit, there's other things that you could take away and the eye would still retain some level of functionality. And well, the opposite idea of that is true as well. A creature with only rods could live comfortably underground or only going out at night. But say if it started developing cones, thus bright light vision, it could then become a daytime creature as well, if only we had a word for such a process.
Evolution claims these formed step by step, but a half-built eye is useless. If one part is missing, the whole system breaks down.
I mean, again, you do not understand that a partially functional thing is still functional. But frankly, this whole thing is like saying if you lost your vision, you would not be able to function at all. And considering there is a massive blind community out there, that is simply not true. And the very nature of evolution is adaptation. If a species began being born blind overwhelmingly, if they could still survive like that, they would adapt. And if some change came along in their genetics, they might very well be gifted a new skill or ability that made sight redundant, like echolocation or a strong electromagnetic sense. Something that, had they had working eyes, wouldn't necessarily have benefited them all that much, so maybe wouldn't have been passed on. But now it's extremely helpful, so members of that species with that ability more likely to breed, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, these kinds of restrictions are a part of how creatures evolve in various interesting ways.
Evolution can't explain how such systems could have developed step by step without being functional all along the way.
They are functional all along the way, you fucking moron. The same cannot be said for the brain of a creationist though. God damn.
Number 3. The Cambrian explosion. Current scientific understanding tells us that about 540 million years ago, nearly all major animal groups appeared suddenly in what scientists call the Cambrian explosion.
You know, an important caveat to the Cambrian explosion is the fact that it wasn't actually the sudden appearance of a bunch of animals at once, but the appearance of their fossils at around the same time, at least geologically speaking. And the thing is, there is a good reason for that. It was a time period that contained a lot of hard-bodied creatures. You know, ones that are easier to become fossilized. Complex life absolutely existed before then. It was just way less likely to leave fossils because they would have been soft-bodied for the most part.
Before this, there's little evidence of complex life. How could such diversity appear so quickly without evolutionary precursors?
Ignoring the fact that less fossils does not mean less creatures. You just said there were any at all, you fucking idiot. Kinda goes against the shit point you're trying to make. Some is not none. And what makes you think that it just wasn't some sort of hyper horny period where everything was fucking like crazy or whatever? Imagine that would make a lot more animals. Also again, the explosion was like a period of 20 million years. That is a long goddamn time by pretty much anyone's standards. More than long enough to have a lot of evolutionary changes. Really, it was more of a Cambrian, slowly congealing puddle of pudding. But that's not quite as punchy.
Number 4. Abiogenesis mystery. Evolution starts after life exists. But how did life even begin?
You said it yourself. It started after life begins to exist. Which, to give him his dues, is more than most of these dipshits can understand. But still, even by your own failed point, with the Cambrian boys, it would appear that life didn't or barely existed before, and then an absolute ton of it suddenly did. Evolution then working on those creatures is completely unrelated to the fact that they started to exist.
Abiogenesis, the theory that life emerged from non-living chemicals, has no scientific proof. Despite decades of research, no one has been able to replicate or explain how life could start naturally. There hasn't been one successful experiment that could show that non-living matter can create living cells.
Well, that's just fucking wrong. And the very fact that they have done decades of research on it kind of proves that it's not some scientific dead end, but something with continuous avenues of study that is being followed to this very day. It's extremely rare, if not downright improbable, that if there was nothing to go on, that they wouldn't have stopped by now. Throw in the fact that there is actually tons of evidence for how life could have formed naturally from non-living matter, and that just puts the final nail into this particularly stupid coffin.
Number 5. Genetic limits. Mutations are the driving force of evolution, but they don't create new information. They often cause damage or rearrange existing genes.
Okay, so you're being wrong again, but there are way more ways that adaptation occurs within creatures. And yet, how are those things not also new information? If I set fire to a picture of something, it is no longer the same picture. If I cut a slice of cake, are there not now multiple pieces of cake that can be shared with me? Destruction is not simply the removal of the good in favor of the bad. A beach is not some distasteful thing that everybody hates, even though it is essentially the destroyed remnants of rocks. A volcano might wreak havoc on the flora and fauna around it, but it creates brand new ground to stand on. An exploding star flings material out in all directions and creates not only comets and even planets, but also brand new stars. The very notion that something not being the same as it was before is the very essence of where new things come from.
In experiments, we've seen bacteria adapt, but they remain bacteria. There is no leap to a new species. In a nutshell, you can tune a Toyota, but it will never turn into a Ferrari.
We have literally seen speciation in the laboratory a bunch of times. And your car analogy demonstrates your utter misunderstanding of evolution. We would not expect it to turn into a Ferrari, but you can sure as shit tune and change parts, adding new ones, pulling out old ones, replacing others. That to then call that car a Toyota anymore wouldn't make any sense. It is a brand new type of car, utterly distinct from either brand, and it goes burr.
Number 6. Fossil dating circularity. Fossils are dated by the rocks they're found in, and rocks are dated by the fossils they contain. It is a system that assumes the age of both rather than proving it. This is circular reasoning and cannot prove supposed evolutionary timelines.
Oh look, you're either a fucking moron or a goddamn liar. You can absolutely date fossils with rocks, and you can absolutely date rocks with fossils. To suggest that that's the only way we do it, and that we somehow made up the fucking ages, is so absurdly idiotic that I can only hope you know that you're lying, because if it not, it means you're so profoundly stupid, I might as well be arguing with a literal piece of shit. There are absolutely other ways we determine the age of these things. Radiometric dating for one, dendrochronology for another. With these things, you can help discern the age of surrounding objects through relative dating, or just out and out discover the pretty much exact age. But the thing is, all of these things don't just circularly tell you the date that you already decided, but confirm the dates that you discover. This is basic stuff. And again, proof that if you're not lying, you are far too dumb to be even attempting to refute ideas you clearly do not fucking understand.
Number 7. Missing mechanisms for macroevolution. Microevolution, like breeding different dog types, is observable and accepted. But macroevolution, species transforming into entirely new forms like fish becoming mammals, has never been observed in nature or the laboratory.
Aside from the fact that, again, we have seen speciation in a lab, microevolution and macroevolution are exactly the same fucking thing. And that apparently you think that evolution doesn't exist, but it actually does, which makes you sound like even more of a fucking dumbass. Then there's the fish into mammals thing, which is an utterly insane expectation when it took literally hundreds of millions of years for that to happen in nature. It's like saying that humans don't age because a child doesn't go from 6 to 60 overnight, or that stars can't possibly form because we haven't seen one happen from start to finish. Although I did learn recently that creationists also deny star formation, so I would not be surprised if it turned out that you really are fucking stupid enough to say that too.
The mechanism for such a large transformation remains unexplained to this very day.
The mechanism is literally explained by the entire field of evolutionary biology, you galactic fucking sandwich. It's like you're trying to piss me off.
Number 8. Consciousness conundrum. Evolution cannot explain the origin of consciousness, our ability to think, reason, and be self-aware.
Yes, it absolutely can. What is actually wrong with you? Do you not think that those things might be somewhat useful to human survival? Being able to reason allows you to avoid things that might do you harm, or figure out how to make something better, or all sorts of other crap. If there ever was a desirable evolutionary trait, having a way to be able to do basically fucking everything would be one of them. And again, having it develop over time from a simplistic form of consciousness to what humans have today absolutely is in line with our understanding of evolution. Well, I say what humans have, what most humans have, present mindless company very much excluded.
How can random mutations produce things like morality, creativity, and abstract thought?
Oh, I'll tell you how. It's not random! Not the selected traits anyway. Think of it like this. I would say, if I thought you could think for even a moment, if you have a machine making random colours of a shelled chocolate like M&M's or whatever, and there was an industrious little rat who really liked the green ones, so he stole them all from the production line. The fact that there aren't any green ones in the packet is not random. It is in fact a selection process. Natural selection does the same with beneficial traits. Not because it likes them, but because of the environment. When it favors the animal with the best traits to exist where it is, that one is going to do the best and pass on its genes. So even though the initial changes might be arbitrary, the fact that they stick around is anything but random.
Consciousness points to something beyond physical processes.
Consciousness is literally a physical process. If it wasn't, damaging the brain couldn't change it, and destroying the brain wouldn't cause it to stop. I wonder what the fuck happened to yours?
Number 9. Order from chaos. The odds of random mutations assembling complex life are astronomically low. DNA is a code, a language of sorts.
Again, not random, so your whole thing absolutely falls apart. And code and language are just human terms that kinda sorta describe the function of DNA, but ultimately it's just not the same thing. It's basically a chemical template, not a set of arbitrary linguistic rules. And to pretend that they are the same thing is again either deliberate deception or profound ignorance.
Can random explosions create meaningful sentences? It's not just unlikely, it's pretty much impossible.
It is entirely possible if you have some mechanism for selecting letters that puts it in a particular order. If the debris from your letter bombs, no, not that kind, was being picked up by seagulls who took a fancy to the letters O and A and then dropped them into yet another random order enough times, you could get the opening to Shine by Aswad. Ooh, ah. Ooh, ah. What a fucking tune. With enough time and the right selection forces, you could get incredibly complex structure out of that. Just like exactly what fucking happens. Because the thing is, you keep skipping steps and thinking the fact that you ignored the most important one as a victory instead of a pathetic failure of your explanations and or understanding.
Number 10. Human uniqueness. Let's pause and think about what truly sets humans apart.
In the long run, absolutely fucking nothing. Humans are animals, just like any other one. The only reason they happen to be the only ones who do the specific things that they do is because they killed off anything that could compete with them. or them to death until they were essentially part of the same species. There is no reason to believe that if you lot didn't exist, that a new species would not take the same place as you currently occupy, doing likely the exact same shit that caused humans to be the only thing quite like them at that moment, and so on and so forth forever. Although, you know what, I tell a lie. I bet whatever another species might end up being, ultimately, they'll never be able to produce anything quite as stupid as you.